All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 o'clock. We have a quorum present, so we're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to start today with the Pledge of Allegiance and the Mission Board Statement. Is she coming? Come on. Come on, Maya. You're up.
Where should I stand?
Stand right here. There's the two pledges there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you.
Board mission statement. Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
Thank you, Jane. So we have, next is public comment. We have no one signed up for public comment, so we're going ahead and move forward. We'll go into student recognitions. Tonight we'll be recognizing the volleyball team, girls cross country, and boys varsity cross country.
All right, Mr. President and members of the board, join me for some fun stuff. All right, Coach, you want to come up and say some things about your cross-country scholar athletes?
Look at the boys, girls over here, the boys. Look at the boys on that side. Boys over there.
They want to go together.
Yeah, you go like that. See where the face is. I'm the coach Hernandez. I coach the girls cross country team. This past year, we got second in district, and we qualified for regionals. And then this is the 24th time these young ladies have qualified for regionals since I've been the head coach. So I'm real proud of them. We lost two of our top runners at the start of the season, and then the other ladies stepped up, and then we still did as well as we've been doing all this year long. And then so I call each kid's name.
Yeah, just let me say a few words. First off, if you want to get pictures, do what you need to do. We're going to make some memories tonight. And Coach Hernandez, Coach Rios, I just want to tell you how proud I am of your student athletes. These are kids that they don't play on Friday night. They're up early in the morning, running early, but they're achieving a ton of self-discipline that's going to pay off for them post-secondary. And the way that they conduct themselves, the way they represent themselves, their families, the TM community in our school brings pride to all of us. And we thank you for your partnership, and we thank you for allowing them to be student athletes because they really make us proud. Congratulations.
Bella Garza. Rios, slide down a little bit further. Right there's good.
Congratulations. And if you'll go around and shake the board's hand, they're proud of you too. Can we get a picture?
Congratulations, Coach.
Get a picture. Coach Hernandez, let's get a picture, and then the parents want to.
Let's start out by boys, if y'all get, oh, we're just doing girls.
Just boys, just girls.
Just girls, okay. Board members, if I could have you guys step up a little bit, fill in the little spots here. Denise, we'll get you over here.
Denise always goes to
Janie, good there.
You might have to back up a little bit, yes.
Thank you. So sorry. You're good. Okay. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Good job.
All right.
Hi guys, I'm Coach Rios, I'm the boys coach. This is my first year as a boys coach. Obviously, we have a very good program over the years. Coach Hernandez has built a great program because he did boys for a long time too. So now he's doing the girls, so the program we have has always been pretty good. We fell just short of our team goals. However, we have a lot to be proud of. We kind of exceeded expectations. I really believe we did. Expectations from around the district and things like that. We were right in the mix where we wanted to be. We just fell slightly short. However, we didn't have a lot of experience coming in either. I even had to go recruit. I want to go to the soccer team. I said, hey guys, y'all run a lot on the soccer field. You have anybody? Can you give me? And we got 3 show up. One stuck it out and made varsity and did very well, and he's a senior, so we're gonna be sad to lose him, but I'm glad he came out to help us out this year. All right, but we had one guy qualify for regionals. He's not here. Aiden Halleck, a freshman, did very well at regionals. He wasn't able to go. He had a family function to go to. And Andrew Barretta got second team all district, so I'm just going to mention those 2 guys, but I'm going to put their things away. And then we have Jeremiah Anderson. He also got second team all district.
Jeremiah, congratulations.
Jeremiah will be back with us next year. Isaiah Torres. Romeo Alaniz. Romeo's a sophomore. It was his first year running cross country, made the varsity team. It's huge. Christian Moreno. Daniel Ortiz.
Congratulations. Coach, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Let's get a picture. Where's Chrissy?
It's Chrissy, come on here.
There she is.
Okay.
All right, let me let the board get in their areas. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Great job, guys. Thank you.
Is Coach Chapa here?
Yes, they're coming.
I'll probably get it when we leave.
Come on in, Coach.
Come on, girls.
Bring your stars in. Gilchrist, you've already transitioned into softball?
I just want to say a couple things. These girls, I mean, they're awesome. Awesome. I can't speak more highly of them, what they do on the field, on the court. They're great students in the classroom. They work hard. One of the most awesome things is all 11 varsity girls got academic all district, so it just shows too. They're true student athletes. And so I couldn't be more proud of them and the work they did, and they had a great season, played some really tough matches, and went 3 rounds, so super awesome.
Rounds.
Yeah, played a really tough team 3rd round, and they hung with them and they played, and I couldn't have asked more for them. Yeah, we'll get them next year, for y'all, for the seniors. First, Melanie Garcia. Thank you. Lainey Sosa. Maya Alanis Valdez. Michaela Salinas. Aubrey Gilchrist. Kelly Bob. And Ava Petrie.
Quality group of kids right here. Really impressed with not only their athletic ability, but their academic ability. and just the way they carry themselves is just really, really special. Thank you, parents. Let's get a picture.
We're just sitting in a straight line.
Be in front. Yeah.
Is that tall people in the back?
Yeah. Get back there, Miss Box.
All right. Here we go. Good? 1, 2, and 3. Great job. Thank you. Thank you. Love y'all.
Oh, yeah, Phil, yeah, now's a good time.
Thank you, Burns.
Thank you.
parents.
Thanks for your support.
Okay, we're going to move forward with the next item is the canvas. We're going to canvass the bond election results. Consideration and approval of a resolution canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the bond election. I'm going to read through this here. A resolution canvassing the returns and declaring results of a bond election and other matters in connection therewith. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Tolosa Midway Independent School District ordered an election to be held November 7, 2023, for the purpose of determining whether the qualified voters of the district would authorize the district's issuance of general obligation bonds, and whereas the board has reviewed and investigated all matters pertaining to the election, including the orders, notices, election officers, holding, and returns thereof. And whereas the board has diligently inquired into the poll list and the official election returns that were duly and lawfully made to the board by the judges and clerks holding and conducting the election. And whereas the precinct returns are attached and incorporated for all purposes. And whereas from these returns, this board hereby finds that the following votes were cast in the election by qualified voters in the district. Proposition A, the issuance of $151,825,000 in bonds for school facilities and the levy of taxes sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. This is a property tax increase. Early votes in person, 418, against 286. Early votes by mail, absentee votes, 1, against 4. Election day votes, 271, against 272. The total votes for are 690 and against 562. Under votes, if any, 8. Provisional ballots, if any, counted 0. Total votes cast, 1,252. Uncounted votes, 0. Proposition B, the issuance of $7,800,000 in bonds for school natatorium facilities and the levy of taxes sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. This is a property tax increase. Early votes in person, 390, against 307. Early votes by mail, absentee, 1, against 4. Election day votes, 260, against 280. Total votes for, 651, against 591. Under votes, if any, 24. Provisional ballots, if any, counted 0. Total votes cast, 1,242. Uncounted votes, 0. Proposition C, the issuance of $5 million in bonds for school recreational facilities and the levy of taxes sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on the bonds. This is a property tax increase. Early votes in person, 380, against 315. Early votes by mail, absentee, 1, against 4. Election day votes, for 244, against 298. Total votes for 625, against 617. Undervotes, if any, 24. Provisional ballots, if any, counted 0. Total votes cast 1,242. Uncounted 0. Now, therefore, it is resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Toulouse Midway Independent School District that Section 1, the board officially finds, determines, and declares that the election was properly ordered, that proper legal notice of the election was given, that proper election officers were appointed prior to the election, that the election was legally held, that all qualified voters of the district were permitted to vote at the election, that returns of the results of the election had been made and delivered, and that the board has canvassed such returns all in accordance with the state and federal laws and the order calling the election. Section 2, a majority of qualified voters in the district voting in the election have voted for Proposition A. The board hereby finds and determines that this proposition carried at the election and that the board is hereby accordingly authorized to issue the bonds and to levy the tax in accordance with the law and the authority granted in the proposition and the corresponding measure stated in the district's election order. Section 3, a majority of the qualified voters in the district voting in the election having voted for Proposition B, the board hereby finds and determines that this proposition carried at the election and that the board is hereby accordingly authorized to issue the bonds and to levy the tax in accordance with the law and the authority granted in the proposition and the corresponding measure stated in the district's election order. Section 4, a majority of the qualified voters in the district voting in the election having voted for Proposition C, the board hereby finds and determines that this proposition carried at the election and that the board is hereby accordingly authorized to issue the bonds and to levy the tax in accordance with the law and the authority granted in the proposition and the corresponding measure stated in the district's election order. Section 5, the president of the board is authorized to execute this resolution, and the secretary of the board is authorized to certify the resolution regardless of their participation in the quorum required by the election code. Section 6, the recitals contained in the preamble of this resolution are hereby found to be true, and such recitals are hereby made a part of this resolution for all purposes and are adopted as part of the judgment and findings of the board. Section 7, all orders and resolutions or parts thereof which are in conflict with the inconsistent with any provision of this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict, and the provisions of this resolution shall be and remain controlling as the matters resolved herein. Section 8, this resolution shall be constructed and enforced in accordance with the laws of the state of Texas and the United States of America. Section 9, if any provision of this resolution or the application thereof to any person or circumstance shall be held to be invalid, the remainder of the resolution and the application of such provision unto other persons and circumstances shall nevertheless be valid. And the board hereby declares that this resolution would have been enacted without such invalid provision. Section 10, it is officially found, determined, and declared that the meeting at which the resolution is adopted was open to the public, and public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the public business to be considered at such meeting, including this resolution, was given. All as required by Chapter 551, as amended, Texas Government Code. Section 11, this resolution shall be in force and effect from and after its final passage, and it is so resolved. Passed, adopted, and approved on November 16, 2023, the date of the canvassing meeting.
Man, say this and then get a second.
Okay. So I move to adopt the resolution canvassing the returns and declaring the results of a bond election.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Villalobos. All those in favor? Carries 7-0, right? 6-0. Okay, Kim saying.
Congratulations.
Sweating reading.
Want to start undressing?
Look how out of shape I am.
Because you're not through reading.
No, I know. Good thing I graduated from Toloso. I read very well.
I'm impressed. There you go.
All right, moving on. Next item is consideration and approval of a resolution establishing the district's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds for capital items.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an item that allows the district to spend money on bond projects that the public has approved and then reimburse itself when bond proceeds are delivered to the district. As you're going to find out in a few minutes from Mr. Quiroga, when he's going to offer a recommendation for a timeline for financing, we're not going to receive funds till late March. But we're going to have a significant amount of expenditures in moving forward with particularly Proposition B and C and parts of A, safety and security, recreational, natatorium, that won't exceed 45 million. But this resolution allows us to move forward and use our general fund for expenditures and then reimburse it ourselves.
Okay. So I'll read the resolution. Okay, here we go. A resolution relating to establishing the Tolosa Midway Independent School District's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds from the proceeds of one or more series tax-exempt obligations to be issued by the district for authorized purposes, authorizing other matters incident and related thereto, and providing an effective date. Whereas the Board of Trustees of Tolosa Midway Independent School District has entered into or will enter into various contracts pertaining to the expenditure of lawfully available funds of the issuer to finance the costs associated with designing, constructing, renovating, improving, upgrading, updating, acquiring, equipping baseball, softball fields, natatorium renovations, and school facilities, including safety upgrades and buses. The payment of various engineering costs, including design testing, design engineering, and the construction inspection related to the construction cost. The payment of various architectural costs, including preparation of plans and specifications and various other plans and drawings related to the construction cost. And the payment of various administrative costs, including the fees of bond counsel, financial advisor, project manager, project consultant, other professionals, and bond printer. And collectively with the cost of acquiring the project, the engineering costs, and the architectural costs. And whereas the provisions of section 1201.042 as amended Texas Government Code provide that the proceeds from the sale of obligations issued to finance the acquisition, construction, equipping, or furnishing of any projects or facilities such as the project may be used to reimburse the issuer for costs attributable to such project or facility paid or incurred before the date of issuance of such obligations. And whereas the United States Department of Treasury released regulation section 1.150-2, which establishes when the proceeds of obligations are spent and therefore are no longer subject to various federal income tax restrictions contained in the Internal Revenue Code of 1986, as amended. And whereas the issuer intends to reimburse itself within 18 months from the later of the date of expenditure or the date the property financed is placed in service, but in no event more than 3 years after the original expenditures are paid. For the prior lawful capital expenditure of funds from the proceeds of one or more series of tax-exempt obligations that the issuer currently contemplates issuing in the principal amount not to exceed $45 million to finance a portion of the cost of the project. And whereas under the regulations to fund such reimbursement with proceeds of the obligations, the issuer must declare its expectations ultimately to make such reimbursement before making the expenditures. And whereas the issuer hereby finds and determines that the reimbursement for the prior expenditure of funds of the issuer is not inconsistent with the issuer's budgetary or financial circumstances. And whereas the governing body hereby finds and determines that the adoption of this resolution is in the best interest of the residents of the issuer, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Tolosa Midway Independent School District that, Section 1, this resolution is a declaration of intent to establish the issuer's reasonable official intent under Section 1.150-2 of the regulations in Section 1201.04T2 to reimburse itself from certain of the proceeds of the obligations for any capital expenditures previously incurred, or to be incurred with respect to the project from the issuer's general fund or other lawfully available funds of the issuer. Section 2, the issuer intends to issue the obligations and allocate within 30 days after the date of the issuance of the obligations the proceeds therefrom to reimburse the issuer from prior lawful expenditures with respect to the project in a manner to comply with regulations. Section 3, the reimbursed expenditure will be a type properly chargeable to a capital account under general federal income tax principles. Section 4, the issuer intends to otherwise comply in addition to those matters addressed within the resolution with all the requirements contained in the regulations. Section 5, this resolution may be relied upon by the appropriate officials at the Office of the Attorney General for the State of Texas and establishes compliance by the issuer with the requirements of Texas law and regulations. Section 6, with respect to the proceeds of the obligations allocated to reimburse the issuer for prior expenditures, the issuer shall not employ an abusive device under Treasury Regulation 1.148-10, including using within 1 year of the reimbursement allocation the funds corresponding to the proceeds of the obligations in a manner that results in the creation of replacement proceeds as defined in Treasury Regulation Section 1.148-1 of the obligations or another issue of tax-exempt obligations. Section 7, the recital contains in the preamble hereof are hereby found to be true, and such recitals are hereby made as part of this resolution for all purposes and are adopted as part of the judgment and findings of the governing body. Section 8, all orders and resolutions or parts thereof which are in conflict or inconsistent with any provision of this resolution are hereby repealed to the extent of such conflict. And the provisions of this resolution shall be and remain controlling as to the matters resolved herein. Section 9. The resolution shall be constructed and enforced in accordance with the laws of the state of Texas and the United States of America. Section 10. If any provision of this resolution or application thereof to any person or circumstance shall be held to be invalid, the remainder of this resolution and the application of such provision to other persons and circumstances shall nevertheless be valid. And the governing body hereby declares that this resolution would have been enacted without such invalid provision. Section 11. It is officially found, determined, and declared that the meeting at which the resolution is adopted was open to the public, and public notice of the time, place, and subject matter of the public business to be considered at such meeting, including this resolution, was given, all as required by Chapter 551, as amended Texas Government Code. Section 12. The resolution shall be in force and effect from and after final passage, and it is so resolved.
Mr. President, it is the recommendation that a resolution relating to establishing the Tolosa Midway Independent School District's intention to reimburse itself for the prior lawful expenditure of funds from the proceeds of one or more series tax-exempt obligations to be issued by the district for authorized purposes, authorizing other matters incidental and related to thereto, and providing an effective date.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is just gonna be like under a separate function? Or how is it tracked?
How are you gonna categorize it? You gonna do a journal entry or,
I'll just, all the payments will be like a due from, we'll book the expenditures and do a receivable, and when the funds come in, we'll reimburse.
And then this is for the duration until all projects are complete, or this is to the duration of when we initially get funds in March?
Victor, can you answer that question?
Yes, the intent would be until you get the $45 million in late March, and then that will replenish those funds for the action that you're taking tonight. So if you're making any expenditures before you get the bond monies in late March, then you'll use those monies to repay your general fund, and then just move on forward. And then, once you exceed $45 million that were initially going to fund, at that point, if you need to do another reimbursement resolution, you can at that time.
So, but this has an expiration date of when we get the first
I think it said 18 months, didn't it? But
One was 18 months, one was 3
the intention
years.
is, once we get the money, we're done. We don't need
Yeah.
to reimburse ourselves anymore, because all the expenditures will come from the proceeds of the bond sale.
Yeah, for some reason, we don't sell bonds for whatever reason, and you make those expenditures, you have 3 years from the date you made the expenditures, to get bond proceeds and reimburse yourself.
I'm good.
I'll make the motion.
Second. I gotta write that down, hold on. All right, all those in favor? All right, vote carries 6-0. All right, the next item is consideration and approval of financing plan for the issuance of unlimited tax school building bonds, Series 2024.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have with us our financial advisor, Mr. Victor Quiroga, to make a presentation. Victor, thank you for being here and welcome.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good to see everybody. And congratulations on the successful bond election. Y'all did a wonderful job, and I'm excited for the district and its students to move forward with these capital improvements. 2 bits of exciting news on this agenda item. Number 1, it's about moving forward and funding those projects. And number 2, there's no resolution for Mr. Arriaga to read on this one, so it should be pretty quick.
All for it.
So you're welcome, Mr. Arriaga. So this is basically a financing plan, and so this is just our recommendation on how to start moving forward, how to enter the bond market, how to get you those monies in a timely fashion, because I know some of these projects are going to be moving faster than others. And so we anticipate going to the bond market in the first quarter of 2024 upon your approval this evening and us moving forward on that. Right now, this is a graph you've seen before, but this is a look back at interest rates since 1961. In the news in the past 18 months, we've seen interest rates rise, and a lot of the interest rates that they're talking about in the news are these short-term interest rates, not necessarily the bond interest rates that we're going to get. These are 30-year rates that we're looking at, so those haven't risen as much, and so they're still pretty attractive when you look at them compared to the historical interest rates. And so but regarding those short-term interest rates that have been rising, in December, you're going to look at maybe some opportunities to how to best invest that and get some additional help on how to invest that, so you could earn as much as you can while you're holding on to these bond proceeds. Because as you know, you're not going to get the bond proceeds and then spend them all overnight. It's going to take you some time to do the planning. So overall, everything's looking good. Right now, we have 7 bond issuances outstanding for a little over $40 million. So the issuances that we're going to sell and move forward to sell are going to be on top of this here. This is, as you know, what you told the voters. It's going to be 3 propositions. The funding, the anticipation is that when we issue the $45 million, when we receive the $45 million, Proposition B and C are the ones that are going to come up a little quicker for you in terms of expenditures. And then you'll have some remaining funds for Proposition A. And this is what we told the voters we would be using the monies for. So today is when we're considering this financing plan and this proposed timeline that we're presenting to you based off of your expenditure needs for the projects. Today, you're just basically allowing myself and staff to start moving forward on the document preparation to go into the market and fix that interest rate for you. We're not locking in the interest rate just yet. There's quite a number of steps that we have to do as your financial advisors and also the bond attorneys. But we hope to enter the bond market February 28th. At that point, we would lock in the interest rate. We would come back to you to let you know what the interest rate is. At that point, you would take official action to accept that interest rate. And then that'll set up a closing of the bond transaction in March 26th. Late March is when you'll receive all the monies all at once. And then at that point, it's up to you on how to move forward in spending them and also investing those bond proceeds. The final page here is a term sheet. Basically, this is a summary of the bond transaction. It's going to be set up just like your existing bond payments, semi-annual interest payments, annual principal payments. Upon your approval today, what I'll do tomorrow is I'm going to submit an application to TEA to get what we call a credit enhancement on these bonds, meaning that we're going to be able to utilize the state's AAA credit rating, which is the safest available rating for a bond issuance, so that we could get the lowest interest rate possible for your taxpayers. We're still going to visit with Moody's rating agency through this process and get a rating report on the district. But aside from that, again, this is just a plan to move forward. We do anticipate issuing up to $45 million of your $164 million bond authorization. After this first bond sale, it's really up to the board and the district on when to issue the remaining authorization. That's still going to be out there, but we're not going to be paying interest on the bonds that we've not yet issued. We're just going to start paying interest on the $45 million in bonds. Right now, the anticipation is that we would go ahead and utilize what we call a competitive sale method, where we set up a bid date and time. We put the bids out there. Whoever gives us the lowest interest rate on these bonds would be our recommendation for you to award those bonds to them, to the lowest interest rate bidder. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, or Mr. Van Mater, if I left anything.
No, you're always very thorough. Thank you.
It's always been good.
All right, no other questions?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the recommendation to approve the financial plan for the issuance of unlimited tax school building bonds series 2024.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion made by Mr. Benavides, seconded by Mr. Mastella. All those in favor? Carry 6-0.
Well, thank you for having me, and congratulations again, and we'll be seeing you come February.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Safe
Happy
trip.
Thanksgiving, yes.
Safe trip back.
All right, next item, our next action item is discuss and consider authorizing the delegation of authority to the superintendent for completion of Proposition C in Bond 2023 from Hellas Incorporation through the One Governmental Procurement Alliance Agreement for a total not to exceed $5 million, funding available through TM bond proceeds.
Mr. President, members of the board, I went to our baseball and softball seniors, and I told them that there's an opportunity, if we move fast, that they could play on their new fields for their senior year. I also told them that we don't control the weather, and that there's a risk involved in moving this way rather than taking our time and doing it in the summer, that the weather could interfere and we could look up and all of their home games would be played away like we had to do with soccer last year. And I wanted their input because I felt that we had an opportunity to duplicate what we did last year and go through the procurement process through the buy board, which we're a member of, which allows us to do a procurement method like this. It's a design build. But I wanted their input, and the boys were, I mean, they didn't even take 5 seconds to say, we really want to play on the field. The girls were a little bit more deliberate, but at the end of the day, they asked me to move forward with this. I've been in contact with Hellas, which did they did your tennis courts, they did the football field, they did the track, the stadium project. They have given me assurances that weather permitting, we can move forward and get it done by February 1st, and that'll be in writing in the contract. And I also have Mr. Brian Parks with Hellas Incorporated here today to give a short presentation on. Brian, you want to talk a little bit about the project?
Yes, sir. Steve, Lord, thanks for having me today. Here's just a color rendering of what we put together so far. We can change anything you like or don't like on the fields. Alternating panels with the school's logo. And also with you basically have the same fiber you have on the football field. It's just a shorter pile height and a different weight to allow it to play better for softball and baseball. And here's a new innovative product we came out with. It's a cooling mechanism for the softball and baseball. True hops, and you can really predict where the ball's going and not going. And we chose that as well for the complex. As far as insurance, we finished February the 1st. The only person that'll stop that is our Savior Jesus Christ, because we can't control the weather, but we have over 1,000 pieces of equipment and over 1,300 employees, and we can put 2 crews on it to make sure it finishes by February the 1st.
Tennis is a resurfacing job with Canopy Shade. That project will start in the summer because he has a spring season and we can do that. This doesn't entail the natatorium, but I haven't had detailed conversations with Coach Alanis to see what that project is going to look like. And then, of course, we're moving forward with safety and security issues with Prop A. But this is a unique opportunity to really move fast with the current seniors, what we did last year's seniors with the Jumbotron. So with that, I will entertain
I have
any.
just a couple questions.
Yes,
So
sir.
how many weather days do you account for in this project? Do you have a weather day total?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
And then as far as design, we're getting the coaches involved with the design?
Yes.
They're having some say in that? They had some say in the plan to do it fast too?
Yes.
Okay.
Coach, I think Coach Moody's here. You want to talk about that?
We asked the kids first. The kids were all excited about it, and so whatever it takes, Coach. Relayed that to Mr. Van Matry, Coach O'Neill. We want it done as quickly as possible as well. For our seniors, for the underclassmen, Mr. Van Matry came in, talked to the kids, Mr. Alvarado and Coach O'Neill, asked them, and without question, hesitation, the baseball guys were, let's get it done, Coach, Mr. Van Matry. So we're very excited for it. They know the risk of possibly losing out on some home games due to weather. We're just hoping it's not going to be the case. But the kids are excited, the program's excited, our parents are ecstatic, and which the community is excited as well. So we just thank everyone for helping this bond, Mr. Van Matry, the board, the parents that went out and voted, the community members. The kids are beyond excited.
Landslide, huh?
My last question would be, so, and I don't know the contract, is this a hard money job? Like, when you say we have this many employees, does that mean you can bring in crews to work days and nights to make up for lost time, or is that cost extra?
No, just whatever it takes to finish the project on February the 1st, we're going to do.
There's a $1,200 liquidated damages if it's not finished by February 1st, and there's no weather-related days.
I have a financial question for you guys. Everything's great. I mean, I'd love to see these kids play. The community would be excited. Is your company willing to wait till March till we get the funds so we can pay y'all, or are we gonna have to pay it up front?
That's part of the reimbursement resolution that you that you just approved.
So you would rather us start in March than
No,
tomorrow?
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you do it now, could you guys wait till March that we get the proceeds to pay y'all? Or is it payment on?
I mean, that's past my pay grade on making that decision right now, as far as we not get paid till March, but I don't think that would be a problem either.
Well, that's good.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's even better then. It won't put any financial stress on us at all then, if that's the case.
No, it won't.
We're financially stable enough to handle that till March if it's necessary.
The halos we added to the baseball and softball fields, are those sunk costs or are they gonna be used?
Those will typically be demoed and the new turf will be put in. Another thing we do different than a lot of people is, we put in our patented pea gravel on the warning tracks for softball and baseball so the kids can feel it and hear it before they hit the wall, so they'll get used to it as the more they play on it, so.
There is a need to turf some of his batting part that we can reuse some of that turf.
Where the slab was left bare from last year, the project from last year.
Deal.
But we'll include all the coaches and all their input, and we'll have a file that they'll have to approve before we actually make the turf. And since we make our own fiber, our own polyurethane and everything else, we're not getting our fibers from China or Europe or anything. Once it's approved, we can have fiber or turf here in less than 3 weeks, so.
Exciting.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Okay. It is the administration's recommendation that the board authorize the delegation of authority to the superintendent for completion of Proposition C in Bond 2023 from Hellas Incorporated through the One Governmental Procurement Alliance Agreement for a total not to exceed $5 million by using funding available through TM bond proceeds. I'll make that motion.
Okay. All right. Motion made by Mr. Mostello, second by Mr. Benavides. All those in favor?
Thank you.
All right, motion carries 6-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll be
Thank you.
moving dirt tomorrow.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
Coach, get the shovel.
Congratulations, Coach.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The kids are excited. They're messaging me. What's going on?
What are you gonna do with that little tractor you got where you drag the field?
We're gonna put the deck back on it and mow the grass.
All right, well done. Good job.
Congratulations. All right. The next item is presentation, strategic plan, goal, progress measure number 3.
Mr. President, members of the board, now we break away from bond-related business and we get into academics. We're very proud of our strategic plan, and we reference it almost daily. And this is a goal project, goal performance monitoring that we will continue to do. It's aligned with Lone Star governance. So having said that, Dr. White.
Three members of the board. In a continuation from last month's first presentation on GPM number 1, which if you can recall was about the readiness profile and talking specifically about grade level transitions and how we're focusing with intention on those transition grade levels to ensure all students are properly ready for their next journey onto their next step. And so tonight's presentation's on number 3, which has to do with more of the academic intervention piece, whereas we're looking at it from a proactive perspective when it comes to intervening through RTI in terms of Tier 2 and Tier 3. And then on the reactive side, where students are in the credit recovery spot. And so we're coming at GPM number 3 from 2 kind of different perspectives. One as a proactive measure, where we're going to be focusing with intention on Tier 2 and Tier 3, and then focusing on preventing more of the reactive measure, which is credit recovery, but still addressing the measures that we have to address through credit recovery. And so with that said, I'll turn it over to Dr. Shaw, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction, for the presentation.
All right. So tonight we're going to go over district goal number 3, and I'm going to go ahead and read the actual goal. So for goal number 3, what we're looking at is the district will see a 5% annual reduction in the number of students needing academic intervention through RTI at the elementary and the secondary level as measured by the first bullet, a reduction in the amount of instructional time that must be dedicated to Tier 2, Tier 3 instruction, and then the second bullet, a reduction in the percentage of secondary students who need credit recovery. So that was one of the goals we came up together when we met together as a team. And so the whole purpose for this goal, if you can go to the next slide, is because we want to ensure that we have adequate and equitable tier for all students academically, social, emotionally, and behaviorally. And so for this particular goal, when you're talking about RTI and MTSS, you're talking about the whole child, the academic, the social, emotional, and the behavior. But for this particular goal, we're going to focus on the academic. So if you'll go to the next slide. And so if you're not familiar with RTI, MTSS, here's a brief description of what it is. And I'm a visual person, so I put the triangle, because when you see this triangle, you automatically know it's RTI, MTSS. So RTI, MTSS is a system-level initiative that helps the district improve student outcomes through the use of screeners, continued tiered support, constant progress monitoring throughout the year, and of course, we always use database decisions when we're making these decisions into what tiers these students will go to. RTI MTSS is not a one-man show. It is a collaborative process. It involves all the stakeholders. We involve our campus admin, our interventionists, our instructional facilitators. When we get to the Tier 2, we also involve our parents as well in this process. So when you're looking at the pyramid, the goal is you want to at least have 80% of your students in Tier 1. That's normal. When you're looking at the yellow, the second tier, Tier 2, 50% is normal to have, like say for example, grade 1, if you have 200 kids, it's going to be okay to have 15% of your kids receiving Tier 2 instruction. Now, Tier 3, we should only see about 5% of our students in that little piece. So as we're moving forward, this is what we're going to be keeping track of. We're going to use the beginning of the year and we're going to use the end of the year to track to see where our students are as they're moving through this level of support. This was not in the original presentation that you received, but I wanted you to have more information on what exactly Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 is. Tier 1 is for all students. That is your high quality core instruction. In addition to that, there's also those differentiated grouping that's also taking place in your classroom. Now, for those students that are still struggling, those kids, after using beginning of the year assessments or screeners, maybe some just classroom work, you might see some of those kids struggling. So those are the kids that we would move to our Tier 2. Currently, right now in the district, we have at our elementary, particularly at the primary, we have interventionists that are working with our Tier 2 and Tier 3. I'm going to say for Ms. Davila, her interventionists are working with the Tier 3 students. The teachers are doing Tier 1, which is everyone receives that, and then of course we're also doing the Tier 2. At Mrs. Trevino's campus, we have a slightly different model. They're implementing, the Amplify, the Eureka. So what we're doing at the intermediate is we have our interventionists working with our Tier 2 students and working with our Tier 3. And then, of course, at the middle school, Melanie's not here, but what we do there is we take our students that have not passed the STAR test, and those students enter into a reading lab or into a math lab. And then when we're talking about the high school, what we focus on there is the credit recovery. And so we also have data on that we will be keeping track. And I'm going to tell you, we've been doing MTSS, we've been doing RTI in the district, but what we have not been doing is really collecting this information and looking to see what the trends are. And so that's what we're kind of doing right now. We are kind of formalizing the process. So when we're thinking about, like, how are we going to collect this information? So we kind of have like a roadmap. So beginning with August, we came up with our goal. And then in October, we had to come up with a way to collect this information. So we did some research. We were looking at different school districts to see, how do you collect this information? We determined staff responsibilities, and then we also held campus meetings with our instructional facilitators, our interventionists, to talk about their process, how they're tracking all this information. And so based on all this information that we gathered, we came up with a document which we'll share in a bit. So in November, what we started doing, we went back and we started collecting the beginning of the year data, because that's going to be our baseline data moving forward. December, I can't believe we're already in December, but what we're going to start doing, we're going to collect the middle of the year data. And so I'll show you in a bit how we're going to do that information. And then in April, we'll collect the end of the year data. And then also in May and June, we're going to go back and we're going to evaluate our plan of action. Is this working? Is it feasible? Because right now, we're just trying to determine how we want to, by 2028, how do we want to see that 5% reduction in Tier 2 and Tier 3? So this is an example of a data tracker. And for this particular tracker, we're looking just really at the primary. So we've created a way to, track the total number of students. And then we're also looking at Tier 1. So we have for kindergarten, we have 180 students in Tier 1 for reading. We have 192 Tier 1 students for math. And so when you look at the percentage, that means 94% of our students are in Tier 1. And so when you think about that triangle, we want to have 80 or higher in that particular tier. When you're looking at Tier 2, right now it's the beginning of the year, so we don't have any, which is good. In Tier 3, we have 6%. So if you're wondering, how did we get this information was gathered at the beginning of the year with our screeners. At the kindergarten, this was for reading, we used the TextKia information, and we have cut points. We have cut points that determine, okay, these kids are in Tier 1, these kids could go into Tier 2, and then these kids, usually Tier 3, you're looking at kids that are maybe 2 years behind or scored very, very low on the beginning of the year screener. And so the same thing for math. We used MAP. We used the screener, and so we use that information. And then in addition to that, I know in first grade, in addition to the screener, we also use reading levels. We triangulate data. Sometimes we don't just base it on one piece of information, because we know sometimes a kid can have a bad day. And so that one assessment does not define that student. So we also triangulate our data to determine what tiers they go into. Just quickly, when a kid does go into Tier 2, we involve parents in this conversation right there. We start letting the parents know, actually, right before they get to Tier 2, your child will be receiving additional support to help them. Let's give an example with fluency. They're reading 30 words per minute. The student needs to be at 70 words per minute. So we're very, very specific on the tier or the strategy that we need to work on. So this is an example for a data tracker for primary, and we did it for all of the campuses, K through 12. Okay? So baseline data, like I said, our principals, they're doing this. They're doing RTI, they're doing MTSS on their campus, but we just wanted to get all this information together so we could track it longitudinally. So for the beginning of the year, Tier 1, if you look, and I kind of put this triangle here because we're focusing on academic and we want 80%. So if you look at kindergarten for the beginning of the year for Tier 1 and reading, we're doing okay. 77 for first grade, not too bad. 71, 74, and then so forth. We have the percentages for all the grade levels. And then again, we have it for math. And so right now, I'll be honest with you, we have new curriculum. And so this is our first year that we're implementing new curriculum. And this curriculum we're raising the standards. It is high quality. And so there's going to be some productive struggle, and there's going to be some more scaffolding, but we're hoping next year when the kids move on to the next level that they're going to have a better understanding, that they're going to already kind of have some common grounds in I guess in the curriculum. So there might be some some percentages that you might, like for fourth grade with math, 64, say like, well, what's going on there? Again, we're using Eureka. And then also, if this is a pattern year after year, that's also an indicator to us like, okay, we need to go back and we need to see what we're doing in our tier 1 instruction. So not only does it serve as a purpose, like to see how our students are doing, but it also gives us an indication on how that curriculum is actually doing on that campus. So a lot of good information that you can extract from these percentages. Okay.
Allison, if
Yes.
you look at that data from fourth grade, it's consistent with what we saw on third grade STAR last year.
Right. And so we're hoping, like this is the beginning of the year data, and this is based on MAP data. And so we're hoping at the end of the year that these numbers for tier 1 will actually will be higher. Because like I said, this new curriculum, Eureka, it's high quality. We've been doing walkthroughs. We have seen the alignment that's taken place. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, Dr. White and Kenna, you'll see the same high-level questioning taking place in the classroom. The only difference is the teacher has a different spin on her delivery of instruction. So, we talked about number bonds. You go from one room to the next room, you're seeing the kids, hands-on. Today we're at Mrs. Trevino's classroom, and we were just amazed because the kids are using manipulatives, it's hands-on, and so we were very impressed. And then we went to the middle school, and these were some of the kids that were in the adaptive ed, and they're moving into an inclusion classroom. Ken and I, we were all there. We were blown away. This was 6th grade English, and there was 2 kids in particularly, and they had their activity books. They were annotating. They were, participating in the classroom conversations. And this is high level. I left just like, wow. So I'm really excited about the end of the year data. And so we're just really excited because we're starting to see that alignment and just that high quality teaching taking place in the classroom.
Like today we went into an inclusion class, a bilingual class, and a GT class all on the same grade level. They were all using the same content, but the teachers, what they did with it was different for their differentiated groups. It was very cool to see.
It was very cool. And then for high school, the way that we're keeping track, or we're doing the MTSS, RTI at the high school, is we're keeping track of our kids that are receiving credit recovery. And so currently for 9th grade, we have 2% of our students that are in credit recovery. 10th grade, we have 29%. 4th grade, 34%. 29% in 12th grade. And this is kind of like your tier 2. It's like when they go to the ACC, that's when you're talking about tier 3. That is, a completely different instruction that's taking place. So ACC, when I'm kind of like taking all this in, that would be our tier 3, because that's where they go to a completely different setting. Again, here's the percentages of students that are not needing academic intervention. And I will say that Mr. Alvarado, they do a very good job also, because every 6 weeks they do failure reports. And so they're keeping track of those students that are they're not passing their core classes. And so that's how you can also determine which kids would need credit recovery. Yes?
I have a question
Yes.
for you. Why are there so many 11th and 12th graders needing credit recovery when they have access to Apex? Do they not?
That is Apex.
Okay, so this is Apex?
Yes, this is Apex.
Okay.
Yes. Good question. Okay? So, and then we're also going to keep track of our high school through credit recovery. Okay? Kenna? And so what are our next steps? Our next steps is that pretty soon, we have not yet taken our middle of the year assessments, but that's coming up soon. So campuses will be doing that. And then we'll also be attending those data meetings with our campus principals. Campuses are doing a phenomenal job of having those RTI, MTSS data meetings. They have their own way of tracking which kids are coming in and out. And that's one thing to keep in mind. Tier 2 and Tier 3, it's not something that a kid is in there permanently. The goal is to get them in there, do the intervention, get them where they need to be, and get them out. That's the whole goal of Tier 2. It's not meant for them to be in there for 3 years. And so that's one of the things we've been having those conversations. If a kid has been in Tier 2 for 3 years, we can't do that, especially in kindergarten. If they don't have their letters and sounds by first grade, we need to intervene. We need to do something because we do not want that kid for 3 years in RTI, MTSS going into third grade, because third grade, we have STAR. And so by then it might be too late. So that's another thing that we're kind of changing, that mindset. We want to make sure that we do everything possible to get the kid the help that he needs. Also, MTSS it's a beast. And so I will say that that's another big initiative that we're trying to get done here in the district, and that's like formalizing our process. And this is really kind of helping us really think about the process. And that would be like creating our handbook. We do have RTI committee teams, but we really need to do a little bit more just formalizing our process and also providing professional development for our teachers. Like I said, right now, everyone has like great systems in place, but one of the goals would be to kind of streamline that process and have some continuity across the district, particularly for elementary and then for secondary, because secondary is a completely different, it's a different beast. There's very, very little research when it comes to RTI, MTSS at the secondary level. Also, we're going to start collecting the end of the year Tier 2, Tier 3 data and credit recovery data. And then we also, at the end of the year, we want to review the roadmap to determine what are going to be some of our supports that we need to put in place, and then what are some changes for the 24-25 school year. So we can give you an update at the middle of the year to kind of see where you're at. And so what we'll have by then is maybe some charts, some bar graphs, so that you can see some of those trends, the distribution of how our students are doing in the district when it comes to Tier 2 and Tier 3. Do y'all have any questions? Yes.
Is MTSS and RTI one of the teacher incentive allotment data points, or
What do you mean by data point?
Like student growth?
Yeah, one of the things we're.
If a teacher does that, will they qualify?
Yeah, well.
Yes, we have interventionists. If they are teaching over 50% of the day, they would be eligible for designation if they met the criteria. So yes, it's
attached.
It's all inclusive, especially with TIA, but particularly with the initiatives we're doing and specifically with HQIM. It's all just brings it all together in a very nice way.
And it could have a huge impact too, because if that kid at the end of the year didn't do so well on the initial beginning of the year, but through intervention at the end of the year, when they do assess, you can see tremendous growth. That's definitely going to have an impact.
And then when y'all are at the point of having more data through the year, I think it would be really cool to see the duration, the average duration in the Tier 2.
Okay.
How much the treatment is
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and that's pretty set, like I said, and then one of the things that we've talked with our intervention is they're also keeping track of like enter dates and exit dates, because that's very, very important. So we can also have that data. Like I said, we have this data like in little islands, but what we're doing now is we're collecting all that information together so we can see the whole picture and see the trends of where we're going and what we need to do. But absolutely.
I have a question. So if this represents or supposed to represent, excuse me, tier 2 and tier 3, should the percentages basically be the same, 80, 15? So 20% should be in this credit recovery, because it seems a little high,
Right.
29 and 34%. Does that change?
It should change.
Okay.
And you know, when you're
Better
looking at
or-
the literature, you know, there's like two different camps. Some might say 75%, you should be in the range, and, you know, 80%, but, you know, as a classroom teacher, we always said, okay, if 80% of your class, you know, is doing okay, so we went with 80%. And so, but yes, hopefully we should see, what you call that is the inverted triangle. And that is very common too. And when you see that inverted triangle, sometimes those are some red flags that you need to see. You know, is it your core 1 instruction? Is it due to, especially at the high school, absences for the students? So you've got to look at other variables as to why you might have that inverted triangle.
And just curiously, why is it typical that 9th grade would be so much different than the other 3 grades?
So I think we're comparing, in RTI for everybody else, it's a skills base. So when they talk about MAP testing, that's just testing their actual reading level. What we're guessing is, did they pass English 1 as a total? So for that 9th grade, those were actually kids who failed an 8th grade high school course that was for high school credit. So they might have failed Spanish 1A in 8th grade. Well, now they're making it up in Apex. So it's a different, it's not even in the same category.
Yeah.
So,
They have nothing to make up yet.
right, so as they progress, you know, further, the amount of kids who fail is kind of consistent with where our STAR scores are. So the amount of kids who failed reading or English 1, let's say that was at 86%, well, then we should have an 86% failure rate in the classroom as well, because what you're doing in the classroom should match what we're doing on the STAR test. So we are very similar in that regard, but it's any course that they failed. So we have students making up Spanish 1, Spanish 2, or we have kids making up environmental system science. It's anything that's going to prevent them from graduating. So whereas in the elementaries, it's purely, can you read, can you do code, can you do all those other things? This is, did you pass the class? And if you didn't, well, that's what we care about right now, because we need to get you to graduate. At the middle school level or everywhere else, you're able to have a win time where they're able to pull those kids and work with those kids. And that's, in my case, I'd have to pull them out of welding, which I can't do. So for some of those kids, welding's the best thing for them. So whatever trade they're going after, those typically kids are not passing their core classes. And to get them out of their CTE classes seems counterintuitive, because that's what they really want to do. So we have to figure out a way in their schedule to get them to match and get with Coach Fig, and they can keep going and, you know, make up their credits, but still keep them on course to graduate with their endorsement so they can make a good living with them afterwards. So it's really not comparing the same thing at all.
And that's going to be for the middle school. They have a reading lab and they also have a math lab. And those are the kids that did not pass the STAR. So
We
like I
also
said,
do something that I'm very unfamiliar with, and I really don't know if I like it or not, and it's the half credit, where we award a half credit at the semester and a half credit at the end of the year. I can see a benefit to that, to the kid that just falls on his face in a semester and has an opportunity to earn half a credit, but it really creates, I mean, as registrar, you should probably know this better than anyone, it creates a an accounting sort of nightmare. Are they missing part A or part B? Rather, what I'm familiar with is you issue a credit or not at the end of the course.
But if you have a blank in between there, you cannot even offer half a credit.
Yeah.
So say, for instance, the student doesn't have a second 6 weeks grade, you can't offer half a credit until that 6 weeks grade is completed. So it would be fruitless to say you can offer a half a credit for a student, to me, it seems like, and I'm old school, I'm back over there, you have to have the credit, Mr. Alvarado, check me if I'm wrong, you have to have the half a credit to be able to determine if the student is going to need to make up something to get the full credit. Am I right with that?
You can mix and match, especially in math.
What do you mean mix and match?
Like you could start with math models and take the second part of this other math class, and that still ends up as a math credit.
Are you saying, okay, go back over that again.
So for like your upper level math, your final math, if they were saying you could take a half a credit of math models.
Right.
And then I'm gonna take a half credit of algebraic reasoning. Well, those two, because they're upper level maths, can give you a whole math credit, as opposed to you having to take and fail one. It's, social studies is the same difference.
So you're saying that you will be able to take, like say they get half a credit for one part, and then they can take the other half a credit with another of the same, I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Right.
So you're gonna be open to doing that with some of these kids?
We've had to be with kids coming in from other school districts. Like, we don't offer that course. There's,
Yeah.
so they're gonna take a half credit, instead of having to redo the entire course, especially with those kids that come in, because we start so early.
Are you doing that with just kids that are coming in, or are you doing with kids that are struggling?
Just kids that are coming in.
Okay, not with the kids that are struggling with this class, so you're gonna take them out because they might fail and not get the credit, so we're gonna offer
If we
them
do
something
that,
else?
they have to come back and make up the A semester in Apex. So like if they were doing physics and it was too hard, so they're gonna go do aquatic science. They'll sit in the B semester but make up the A semester.
I'm getting ahead of myself here, but while I'm thinking it, I need to ask this. How are you gonna do the GPA factor? Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself.
So for any Apex course, GPA does not
It
count.
doesn't count, correct? So, okay, so you're leaving the credit and you're not counting the course for a GPA, correct? Okay. I'm sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking too fast. Okay, thank you.
It's your birthday. Happy birthday.
Aw, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have a question. It's nice to know that people understand all these programs and stuff, because I don't. But what it seems is that the intervention, especially in the high school, keeps kids from having to go to ACC at one point or another, as you
The
get.
credit recovery, I believe so.
Yeah, so if they're not doing what they need to do in Coach Fig's claess, then they end up going to ACC.
I had one check out today.
Right. He was in how many Apex courses?
He still needed 9 to graduate.
So you catch them earlier, like
If
this.
that's, yes,
It
that's.
helps.
I have a big question.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm not gonna be popular for this question. Is our ultimate goal to get rid of ACC, where those kids are not gonna have to go to ACC for credit recovery or for getting them back on track to graduate with their cohort? Is that the ultimate goal?
I think our ultimate goal is to identify the at-risk kid much earlier and provide treatment at the high school as fast and as quality as we can.
Their enrollment should not increase, it should have a downward trend.
Okay, and the enrollment should not, the students that we are providing for over there should not be 9th and 10th graders, correct? Unless they're at risk for something else.
Unless they come from another district too.
And by age, so they are.
You have a 17-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, but your premise is correct.
Yes.
Yes, let's get all the resources that the high school has and just inundate them with it.
Right.
And let's see what happens.
I get the 17-year-old coming in with one credit. I get that, okay, yeah. all right.
Circumstances, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I just want to echo what Ben said, like a lot of this is foreign to me. I've been here a year now, I'm starting to learn more of it, but I want to applaud y'all because every time y'all come in here, y'all are on your game. because y'all have an answer for everything. I think that's a tribute to everybody in this room and the faculty and your leadership, and it's just really impressive to watch, and you say it in terms where I can understand it, because I don't understand a lot of it. Denise, I lean on Denise a lot because she's very smart, and but I appreciate y'all. I think y'all should be applauded for always coming here and knocking it out of the park.
And having answers, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't get a lot, I'll get back to you, because we get a lot of, this is how it is, which is fantastic.
Good job. Team effort.
All right.
Any other
All right.
questions?
That was
Any other
information only?
Yep. No, presentation only, no board action needed, so the next one we will be moving on to is presentation for the Compass Academy.
Mr. President, members of the board, you've heard the term optional flexible day related to finances. It's an opportunity to recover more ADA, and it's an opportunity to provide more flexibility to our at-risk students earlier than what we've ever been able to do. So Dr. White and Mr. Alvarado have been, and Ms. Chapa have been working on the Compass Academy. Dr. White?
On that note, Mr. Van Matry, members of the board, high school has prepared a presentation for you all tonight regarding their vision for OFSDP at the high school. We're calling it Compass Academy. And in keeping kind of with that image, that theme of just direction, guidance, and moving in the right direction, the presentation will allude more to that. And then from there, we'll then turn to the next agenda item, which will lead to the discussion on the actual application itself. And so this is kind of a preview about what's contained in the application in a much more friendly user way. So let's enjoy.
Okay, so, pardon my voice, because a little cold. So the Compass Academy is our answer to what we were going to plan on doing with the optional flexible school day. It allows us to treat our students differently, hopefully provide them more of what they need so that they can stay on our campus and, for lack of better words, give them the resources they need so that they can avoid going to ACC. This is going to help with that. So this is the vision and mission of the Compass Academy, to empower students to success through creativity and personal accountability, to enhance opportunities for lifelong achievement, and it helps them make innovative experiences as they progress towards graduation and beyond. So what this is a program is designed to do is to give the kids an opportunity, for lack of better words, to accelerate the academics so that they're able to do the trade CTE work, do everything they need to do to be successful with whatever it is they have planned. Okay, so about the Academy, the Compass Academy is designed to assist students who are behind in credits to accelerate to graduation and complete CCMR requirements. The campus program supports and delivers a range of learning in non-traditional style setting. The program is intense with high expectations for participating students. So in addition, what you'll notice is the CCMR requirement. We'll go over those later in the presentation. So a student not only will leave our academy with their diploma, but they must be college and career ready. So they'll have the opportunity to, again, one of those factors we'll talk in a little bit, but more importantly, have the opportunity to stay on campus and fulfill everything they need to be. So if you're a cosmetologist, they'll be able to finish cosmetology out with us instead of having to go someplace else to do that.
Especially with our new state-of-the-art.
Yes. There you go.
I had two superintendents call me today wanting to know if our new CTE center, they would be able to send kids to the CTE center. That's.
We get additional money.
Rent a seat. I was going to say rent a seat.
You get tickets on Ticketmaster.
It's all about.
Get the MOE ready.
Do anything for.
So here are the requirements. So we'll have juniors who have passed the STAR EOC, English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, and Bio. So these kids are going to be STAR ready, okay?
That separates them from the traditional ACC kids.
Correct. Most of the kids we send to ACC have not passed STAR. So they are in need of heavy, heavy-duty remediation to get the skills set so they can graduate. Seniors who are STAR EOC ready, which means they've also passed the junior course, which was the U.S. history. They have to be labeled at risk for some reason, and there's a bunch of indicators. We went over that. It was a long meeting today, but we got through it. Must have successfully completed at least one credit in the traditional APEX environment. So they've been enrolled in an APEX course and have proven to be successful in that APEX course. We didn't want to give this anybody cold. Must sit through TSI testing. If they have not passed, if they didn't pass TSI, part of their graduation requirements when they are in their APEX courses is to enroll in the Texas College Bridge program. This is a new program where if they take the entire course, they get a 90 or above, and the system's very good. It doesn't let you get anything less than a 90. You get to retake it as many times as you are. If you pass that course, then you are able to go to like 40 colleges and universities without having to take the TSI. They automatically accept you. You're able to start day one in traditional college classes. It's a very new program. So all these kids would get through it, so that's how they would they could fulfill their CCMR requirement. All Compass students must follow academic discipline and attendance compliance policies to continue in the program. The attendance thing is going to be the big one. And this is how we kind of incentivize everything as well. Okay. So incentives for the program, early graduation. The student has the opportunity to graduate early, depending on how motivated and quick they are willing to finish school. So you have kids that really wanted to knock it out. They could get done as soon as they are ready to go, enlist in the military, and be gone. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
So are you considering 3-year grads? Are you
Yes.
considering 3-year grads?
Right, because we get paid for them.
Are we trying to graduate juniors and getting 17-year-olds out of, with their full credits and ready for?
Yes. So there's a new incentive program for those students to early graduate. We still get ADA for their entire senior, or for a portion of their senior year, and they get a scholarship if they graduate
Yeah,
early.
they graduate early, right.
So,
do you have a lot of kids that have signed up
We
to
have
graduate?
one who's about to finish.
Amber, there's one senior who took 6 classes from the start of school. She's completed all 6 because she wants to graduate in December and start her real estate. And she knocked them out.
Right, and she's eligible for that,
Okay.
that scholarship.
And we still get ADA.
Yes. Flex day schedule, students are able to flex. We'll talk about that in a little bit, in a couple of the slides of how their day is going to transition. And the biometric scanners that we have to buy for our employees, that's how we'll make sure that they're getting their ADA in so that we can count them. As part of the law, we have to have an accountability
So
system.
right now, if they're not here at 10, we lose the funding. This will eliminate that.
Are they still getting their 240, is it 240 minutes a day? They're still getting that?
Yes and no. So we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Weighted GPA, so students have the opportunity to graduate or depending on how motivated, quick they are to finish. But the weighted GPA part is, here's where we're different from ACC. If I'm a kid and I go to ACC, I throw away my class rank. I don't get to graduate in my class. So if I was in the top 25% or top 10% and life happened and I had to go to ACC, I'm out. This lets them stay in. Now, the APEX courses are not going to count towards their GPA, but their welding courses would. Their, phlebotomy, EKG, cosmetology, all those other classes would still count towards their GPA. So they're still able to be ranked with their cohort, and that has some college implications. And participation in extracurricular activities, as long as they're a full-time student, they're still able to participate in whatever sport they want. So they're still able to do football, they're still able to do whatever baseball, so long as they're able to maintain 5 credits that they're enrolled in when they're playing, at
Does
least 5.
UIL eligibility come to play in any of this?
Yes, no pass, no play does, but they only have to be in 5 classes to participate. Okay. CCMR. So these are the way kids can earn, or we told them they have to be CCMR ready so they have 9 hours of college credit. So all of our welders, they're good. they'll have almost 60. You have the cosmetologists, they're good, they'll have 48. So you have, they have 3 colleges in just the LAR, so they took Ms. Golovic's class, they decided I'm gonna take that class. They get their CCMAR credit. Those are the qualifying scores they'd have to get for SAT, ACT, passing the TSI, the Texas College Bridge Program that I talked about earlier, or complete a coherent sequence and finish with their certificate. And the final one is actually enlist in the military. We get their form that they've enlisted, we get that, they're considered college military ready. So any of those would qualify.
How long is the College Bridge program?
It's one of those things, as fast as you want or as slow as you want. It's, as long as you get a 90, or you keep on progressing. You can finish it in, what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you really
It's
hustle.
dependent on the individual student and their determination to get it done.
Okay, so here's where the optional flexible school day is and the incentive for the kids. So, if I have 8.5 to 12 credits left, I will be attending school 8 periods a day. When I get down to 8 credits to graduation, 7 periods a day. 7 credits to graduate, 6 periods a day. Remember, a lot of these kids are at risk, they are working. I mean, when we pulled all 50 of them in, like Dairy Queen, water, I mean, it was a lot of the kids. So now they're able to pick up shifts, help their families. That's a big draw to ACC, is I can go work and support my family because they have a shorter day. At 6 credits, that's 5 periods a day. 5 credits, they're going 5 periods a day, but now they're only coming 4 days a week. So now they can schedule themselves to work on a Monday or a Friday or whatever that might be.
Excuse me, do we get the ADA for the 5th day?
Yes, full day, for the full week.
As long as they're meeting the minutes, yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you get credit for all 5 days.
Oh, okay, that's why I said the 5 days.
Yes, not the 4 days, all of them. When they get down to 4 credits, it's 5 periods a day, 3 times a week, and then so on and so forth. Their final one, when they have 1 credit to graduate, 4 periods, 3 days a week is what the max they can. Now, they have to attend school 240 minutes,
Yes.
for the entire week to get credit. We've built in 540 minutes. That's the max, the lowest thing. In case they're absent, we still get the full week's worth of ADA. But this allows the kids to go to work, but it also allows kids, like if they are working on a program, let's say welding, and they can come in, finish all their academics, and just be left to weld until they get their accreditations, and they can actually, welding's one of those things, if I do the right, there's a weld or the right cut, whatever they're being tested on, they can progress as faster as they need to do that, and then improve their skill level as well. So parent meeting. Okay, so in order to qualify, the parents have to come to a meeting. We meet with the parents, we meet with the kids, we give them a packet. It's all due by December the 8th. We've already done it. Parent meeting was tonight. To meet with the parents and talk to them about this program.
How many parents do you have showing?
17.
17?
No, it's
17.
17 showed up.
Out of the 49, 50 we invited. So we started off with a cohort of that big. So these 17 kids will be one of our guinea pigs. And then we'll go from there. Now, can the kid come in later? Yeah. We just want to we have to talk to the parent. This is a very weird program. If you think that makes no sense to a parent who went to school when we went to school, it just wouldn't comply. So, we have to explain the program thoroughly, talking about the importance of attendance. And we don't want this to be like slacking time. This should be, we're giving you this time so that you can work, or, you know what, I can do a mini semester at Coastal Bend College and finish something else up at that time because I have the time. So really, you're playing with their amount of time that you have, and hopefully they make the most of what they're given.
So, Mr. Now, I guess, now the job is to get the parents, because you say you have 40, 50 kids that want to do this? So now we have to just get the parents involved and find them a way to.
We want to make sure that they understand what they're signing their kids up
Exactly.
for, but also to know the incentives, the many incentives that the students will be provided.
So 17 parents is kind of low for the for
Right.
that, but, I mean, that's
I'm
what,
sure that-
I guess I'm getting at is that maybe we need to do a better job of explaining to the parents, this is really important that y'all, you know,
We
figure
sold
this
the
one
kids,
out.
I'll tell you, we were there and they
kids, yeah.
they were high-fiving and, you know, they wanted to bring
They
their
wanna
friends.
start it now.
And we said, no, this is, there are some criteria that you had to meet and we wanted to start off with them, so.
The key thing, I think, is tomorrow, some kids gonna say, my parent couldn't make it. I'm gonna schedule me with a parent to explain the program to.
Great.
You know what I mean? So we're not gonna say if a kid, now, we did have a couple kids say, you know what, sir, I just wanna be a regular high school kid, I'm fine. You know, we had one say that at the meeting, he's like, I don't want anything to do with it, I just wanna
Yeah, no,
go to school.
that's good.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. But these are, we plan to start, the blessing, next semester, with our first cohort and see how it does. And if it's something that's gonna be attainable for our kids and it works out, then we hope to continue it. But this is very similar to an ACC would work, except for we cannot provide, we don't have the staff to provide that, that intense reading and intense math to get them to pass the EOC. That is not what this program does right now. This is for the kids who are like, I passed on my STAR test, life's getting in the way. How can I stay here with my friends instead of going to ACC? That's the difference between the kid.
And ACC also houses students who have high anxiety levels or mental health issues and that would not work as well in a typical high school. And so those are sometimes your younger students as well.
Any questions?
Do you have I know you said you started with 50 potential. Do you have a target moving forward on how large the cohort should be?
I know we were looking at about 45.
And that's at the school level or at the grade level?
At school level.
Okay.
We were kind of bound by the STAR test. So if, these kids haven't passed STAR,
Okay, yeah, that makes
you know
sense.
what I mean, then this program's not, the
Yeah.
ACC's more their route. If they've passed STAR, they're good to go, it's just, one of our parents, his father died and he's living by himself. He's 18. How do we
Help him.
help him get through when he's working at Stripes? You know what I mean? That's the kid, wants to stay with his friends, wants to continue to play sports. Next sport is up, he's really excited about it. How do we keep him in school, but let him work? Let him stay UIL eligible to play. That's what he wants. He still wants to be a kid. I mean, he's only 18.
Do you have the data, I'm sorry.
No,
Do you
go
have the data on how many of these kids that are at ACC have passed the STAR? But since we don't have that option at the high school, automatically need to go to,
I don't know, Iris, you
I
would
would
know
probably
that.
tell you a good 80 to 85% of the students at
serious?
ACC are missing one or more STAR tests. Yes, sir.
or missing?
Yeah.
Or-
I
okay, okay.
mean, I failed.
Oh, okay,
Yes, sir.
okay, okay.
I failed, yes, sir. It's quite a bit.
I had a question. A couple meetings ago, somebody, I don't know if it was, we discussed how many at-risk students are at TM, or I don't know if it was at high school or what, and I was a little bit shocked at the number. So how do we manage or from it getting too big if people, seem drawn to this program? I mean, is there levels of acceptance, or I know if that number is big at risk, there may be a lot of people passing the STAR that are considered at risk. Is there any concern of that, or?
So when we sat down, it was myself, Ms. Chapa, Ms. Fig, Ms. Cardenas, the counselors, we put our heads together on which of these kids, all these kids came from her classes.
Yeah, all the kids that we're looking at for the academy are in Apex classes already, for whether it's primary or credit recovery or whatever the reason. So it's not like we're pulling kids from the outside and adding them. These kids are all already in an Apex class or several.
Because they failed a traditional course.
Correct.
So you can be at risk for a lot of reasons. The number one one that hits us is STAR. If they failed STAR, they're labeled at risk. But there's other factors that, they just won't, just because they're labeled at risk, doesn't mean they're not gonna graduate on time. Like, if your parent is incarcerated, you're labeled at risk, but that kid might be a straight A student. You know, so it apples and oranges sometimes with what qualifies. Right.
There's a wide, and like I think the biggest is a lot of them are having to work. They come in and you can just tell like they're so tired, and it's because they were at work till 12.
And because they're in the same, like, it's funny you just mentioned that. The Apex kids get the other Apex kids jobs at the same place. So it's like its own little recruiting area, like you go to Dairy Queen and they're all there, you know, I mean, so it's a good group of kids, you know, and they're trying the best, but life got hard. And, you know, some of these kids go through stuff, it's amazing they come to school. So let's give them the opportunity to, you know.
And a lot of them have accepted that, you know, and they'll tell me, I messed up freshman year. I messed up, or I was with the wrong crowd. You know, we had one girl not want to go to ACC because she didn't want to be with that crowd that she was with that got her in trouble as a freshman. So she's like, I want to stay at the high school. I said, okay, sweetie, but then you're going to have to, like, let's go. You're going to have to work. And she's like, I know. So I think some of them have grown since freshman year, and they're seeing, okay, I need to get back on track. And that's what I tell them. Whatever got you here, got you here. Now we're moving forward to get you back on track, to get you to graduate.
I'm a student. I've never taken English 2. I can go into Apex not having prior instruction for English 2. I've never taken it, and I'm in Apex for English 2.
There are, that class, I wouldn't let you take it in because it's STAR tested.
Okay.
So
Would you say let's say English 3, or come in with say I've never had prior instruction in a core class.
Right.
I'm going into Apex.
Yes.
You have those kinds of students
Yes.
that have never had prior instruction.
We have a whole bunch now.
So you're taking students who've never had prior instruction, you're allowing them to go into Apex, and they can accelerate that class for credit? Is that correct?
Yes.
The curriculum is different for primary credit as opposed to credit recovery.
No, I'm talking about primary credit.
You have to do absolutely everything.
The majority-
Saltpeak's compliant?
Right.
Okay.
The
You have
majority of
students
kids
that do that, that can go through an
Yeah,
Apex?
so the typical student is, let's say, is a cosmetologist. Okay, there's no way for them to finish their entire cosmetology program without accelerating some of those courses through Apex. There's just not enough room in the schedule to get this diploma and this certificate.
But they're core classes, and
Yes.
they're able to do the core
Right.
class, get the
Government and
credit.
economics are the two most ones that those kids do.
Okay.
So they'll take
Psychology and
them-
sociology.
Right,
Health.
they'll take those
Not core.
so they can afford to take a block of phlebotomy and EKG and a block of Miss Waddle's class. You know what I mean? So they'll do that. Now, the government and economics won't count towards GPA, because that just wouldn't be fair. You know, so, but we have a number of kids, especially those taking those block CTE courses, they just don't have enough room in their day to not do that. But the number one is government and economics. Those two, if they're gonna accelerate, that's the ones we push them to. But they will never take US history, they'll never take English 2, English 1, Algebra 1, or biology. Those are no-nos as primary credit.
Yeah, those are all credit recoveries.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Okay, it is the administration's recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve the Pelosi Midway Independent School District optional flexible school day program application for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Mr.
I'll
Van
make
Dyke,
that. Oh, I'm
can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
No,
Can I ask a question, sir? You have to submit the application to TEA first, right?
Second, after upon board approval first, then it moves to TA for their final review. And my understanding is, as long as everything has been met, which of course the application does, we shouldn't have any issues. But even if we did, they will work with us on whatever issue there is so we can clean it up and resubmit so that we can become fully approved. But that is the process. It's a two-step process.
So this is like, you're starting this, you're forwarding this application as soon as possible.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Everything's tomorrow.
Still got one more day.
Be a busy day tomorrow.
You're gonna hit the button here.
That's right.
Yeah,
Maybe tonight.
Okay, I was just curious curious about the
Yeah.
timeline, because I know it has to go to.
It will
TV.
go to them, and then the timeline, as it's been explained to us, is it's about 30-day turnaround. And so between tomorrow and hopefully by the end of the actual calendar year, we might know something, but definitely should know way before the first day of second semester if we will be good to go or not, so that high school and ACC can both begin their OFSD programs.
I'm sorry I interrupted.
That's
That's all right. Ben?
I'll make that motion. I think it's a great step to keeping more of the students at the high school, which is what I want to see. Eventually, all of them stay at the high school.
Yep, I agree. Anybody second?
I'll second that.
Janie?
Sorry.
That's all right. All right.
I like to push this way.
Oh,
I should have come
All those in favor? Vote carries 6-0.
Mr. President, can we, due to the fact that we have students here, can we move item 6 ahead of item 5?
Absolutely.
Oh, the field trip, oh.
All right, so moving item 6 ahead of item 5, we're going to discuss and consider out-of-state field trips requests for TMHS speech and debate, Harvard University, Cambridge, and Boston, Massachusetts, if I said that right, February 15th through 20th, 2024, pursuant with Board Policy FNG Local.
Mr. Alvarado?
Mr. Levine and her group, Mr. Levine.
Hi guys, I'm Cassie Delavina. I am the speech and debate coach up at the high school. We are here to seek the opportunity to travel to Boston to compete at the Harvard University Speech and Debate Tournament. This is a student-funded trip that we're doing, so the students are responsible for fees such as hotel, flight, and registration. They're looking at about $1,200 per student, but I just received a message probably like 2 hours ago from a company from Arturo Guerra with Guerra Underground LLC, who has offered to sponsor $3,000 to the trip, cutting the cost down for them.
Awesome.
So as long as we get board approval, he's ready to write that check and send it to me. Harvard comes with a lot of opportunities, but I thought it would be better to hear it from them than from me. So I have a couple of my seniors here to tell you about it.
All right, well, hi, I'm John Cooper. I'm the president of the speech and debate team up at the high school. This is actually so I'm a senior. This is my 7th year doing speech and debate. I started in the 6th grade at the middle school level. Been doing this for 7 years. And Harvard's a really great opportunity. We got to go last year. So just a couple things, like the trip is an amazing opportunity. Outside of speech and debate, I've never traveled outside of the state, and speech and debate has allowed me to have that opportunity to go to different places. And that's especially true when it comes to Massachusetts and the Boston area, which is so unique and so unlike anything else in the whole U.S. That whole eastern side and those old cities are so interesting to walk around, be in, and it's such a unique opportunity that not only do I want to experience again, because I did get to go last year, but also for the students who are going for the first time this year. It's such an incredible opportunity and a beautiful city to walk around, see. And additionally, the Harvard campus is just so incredible to be at. I mean, it's one of the most historic campuses in the whole U.S. The facilities are so incredible. All of the whole buildings. It's beautiful. It's incredible architecture. It's great. The whole campus ground is populated by turkeys, which are really fun to engage with throughout the year. And overall, it's a really great trip. So I would really appreciate it if y'all would give us your support. Thank you.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Mark Miller, and this is my 5th year doing speech and debate. I started in 8th grade, and this will be my 2nd year attending the Harvard Invitational. Last year, one key thing that I loved about the tournament was that I was able to socialize and make connections with children all around the nation, spanning all the way from the West Coast all the way to the East Coast, and that was really amazing. Another thing that I liked is at local tournaments, we are performing in rooms with 20 people max, maybe, but when you attend the big, large tournaments like this, you're on stage in front of hundreds of people, and they get to hear your story, and they actively engage and listen to what you have to say. One thing that I really hold deep and dear to my heart is last year I told a story that broke down the negative connotations with postpartum depression, and I had a mother come up to me after the round saying that I opened her eyes and I gave her closure, and I just want to be able to do that again for thousands of people.
Hi, I'm Ben Starkey. It's my 3rd year doing speech debate and my 1st year going to Harvard. I really want to go because plain and simple, I can't get good critiques here in our circuit anymore. I mean, I see the same judge and the same pieces and the same kids. How can I grow as a performer and an actor? So when I am competing at the state level, especially at UIL, when I bring prose and poetry to Harvard, I can get these national judges to give me fantastic critiques that can help me bring home a state championship in UIL. And fun fact about me, I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and I don't remember a single thing about it. And I would love to go there and experience it and learn about these things that my parents have told me that I haven't really experienced, you know? Also, I'm not gonna go to Harvard. That's so unrealistic for me. So just saying that, I've been to Harvard, yeah, pretty cool, right? So I would really appreciate it if I could go to Harvard with my team.
Thank you guys so much for letting us speak and come here and present to you. Appreciate it so much and all the work that y'all do for TM.
I just want to say, when I first came to TM, the speech and debate group was one of the first group of students and clubs that I became associated with. And I was blown away then with the level of competence and excellence and winning. You win everything. And just the way that you carry yourself speaks so highly of TM. And I'm just so proud of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
We all are.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, come back and tell us about your experience.
Yeah.
We will do.
We'll have them back.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Mr. President, members of the board, it's the administration's recommendation that the board approve the out-of-state field trip request for TMHS Speech and Debate, Harvard University, Cambridge, and Boston, Massachusetts, February 15th through 20th, 2024, pursuant to policy FNG local as presented.
I will make that motion. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely.
I'll second.
Second, all right. Motion made by Mr. Mostella, seconded by Mrs. Villalobos. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Have fun.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank y'all.
Have a wonderful night.
I'm sorry to keep y'all. I should have moved that agenda item over.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, so back to number 5, we have a report, October 2023 financials.
Carol?
Yes, this is a continuation of where we stand for through the month of October. So 2 months into our operating year. And if you look, I just added an extra page on the general fund where it shows you without the encumbrances. That just shows you what we actually expensed versus what we've actually paid for. But the first one shows with the encumbrances where we've already allocated the money. We just haven't spent it yet, but it just kind of shows you the difference. If you go down the line, we're pretty much in line with 2 months of operation.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, information only?
Yes, sir. All right, the next one is, item number 7 is the update SHAC report.
Dr. White?
Yes. I'm back again 1 year ago from last year to report on the Student Health Advising Council and the annual report from 2022 to 2023 school year. And so as we get the presentation ready, so far for this school year for 23-24, we've already had 2 SHAC meetings. So that's kind of, we're halfway done with the committee so far. The first meeting we had was back in August, and the last meeting we had was currently in October. And I will say from last year to this year, the biggest difference is moving from kind of design and implementation for things that we're either needing to do or wanting to do, to now, after kind of implementing, what does that look like? How can we be better? How can we improve? And allowing that to be facilitated through the SHAC committee, and in particular with our parents. I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
down. There we go. You're right, down. I have no idea why it's blue, but because it doesn't show below my screen. So from here, this is essentially the kind of just introduction to the committee. As you all know, this is the school board's committee, and it is in statute. The annual report is essentially the primary responsibility of the chairperson, which is me, to allow you all to hear annually about the happenings and the events of the SHAC committee. Again, for those who are unfamiliar with SHAC, based on student health advising, there's a variety of topics that are addressed, but specifically we primarily focus on the PE, the health, the fitness, the nutrition, and as of late, the social and emotional well-being of our students. And so some of the targets that we have focused on have been the 4 that you see here. The first target being support services for students and families. With the new revenue expenditures that we were able to get from ESSER, we were able to bring on some new staff members from the social and emotional area for social workers and things of that nature to that, so that we actually had some people in place to sustain and be able to actually implement some of the things that we're wanting to do, whereas we didn't really have anybody else remaining on staff or in our departments to take on this type of work. And so we had this great vehicle, SHAC, where we could generate all these ideas and brainstorm all these things that we were wanting to do, but how to move that from SHAC into the real world was difficult. But because of ESSER and because we've been able to bring on some new things with Mr. Van Matry being here now for over a year, parent liaisons and so forth, we've actually created an entire department for students and families based on the services that we now provide.
Dr. White, I have a question.
Yes.
How do you identify who needs these types of services?
Great question. Our social worker and our counseling department, they create all that criteria. And depending on what criteria or what program we're trying to fit the need, that's kind of what they do. That's what they work on.
Are these the same at-risk? Are they at-risk?
They could be.
Okay.
And they tend to be. That's just kind of part of the triangulation of our data to kind of understand, well, if they're at risk and they're in the Compass Academy, perhaps they might also need a bit of social work and support from a service that maybe T-Chat or Care Portal can better help support them, so that as we triangulate our data, it's like we're triangulating our students to not just treat them as one data point based on a STAR exam, but to also consider other factors that if we're, doing something with intention and purpose, we should be putting that student in the best position possible to be successful.
I'm not very familiar with how this operates, so my questions may not be relevant. So how do you get a family, a student involved? Say they're not speaking out, they're not reaching out, and they're not being identified as such in the school, but there are those students out there. How do you get those target students and families to be serviced by this program?
Persistence.
Persistence.
Because
some of the parents probably would not want to.
Not at first, and you're right when you kind of are hitting on, as you allude to, kind of just that difficult group. How do we bridge gaps and make connections with reluctant families? It really does come down to persistence. And I will say that we're very blessed to have such a great social worker and Amanda Mugi, who does have that persistence, because as you know, it's difficult. It can be easy to reach out, have a phone call, possibly even do a home visit, but then at the end of the day, make no effort, have nothing to show for that time and effort you put in. But through our team and just some of the things that we've been able to do through SHAC from last year, and now we'll kind of get into some of the slides in just a second, implementation-wise this year, we're breaking down those barriers. And as our families talk and communicate and realize as we continue to expand our services that we're offering, our parents are being made more aware. Parent Square has been a great way of communicating some of the new things about the initiatives that have been on the campuses, in particular at high school. And so we are seeing that is leading to those barriers being broken down.
I would like to see a no student left behind kind of
That's basically the mindset.
Okay.
And I will say that given that the department is super brand new, that vision setting is kind of what we're kind of using the SHAC for as the vehicle to develop more of what do we want to really have in the district to be able to provide these services for the families and the students that we're talking about today. And so, you're welcome. And on that note, so everything that we've been doing as a SHAC has been driven through the idea of needing a department for students and family services. From there, the goal has also been to increase the amount of participation and engagement we have with our families and our parents. And then, so that's kind of a two-pronged family kind of parent scope. And then as we move down to crisis intervention and prevention, and with the student engagement survey, that's been a bit of the two-pronged student approach. And so trying to create some balance between how we're using the SHAC, obviously to help support students, but to also support the families so that we're all working together and we're kind of bringing that unity across the board with our stakeholders. And so with that said, we were able to create that department for student, family, and support services. And if you hadn't had a chance to check out our website, we've been able to do some really cool things on the website through Ms. Salinas and her leadership through technology. We've been able to really kind of start working on developing what they would like to see on the website, and you can get a sense of who the department is. It's made up of parent liaisons, communities and schools, and our social worker who leads the department. And so some of our tabs here just outline some of the things that we've been working on, and obviously to know more about these employees. And so that's just something that is brand new for this year. And the SHAC, like I said, has been helpful in kind of creating some of the vision for what we would like to see on our website, as an example.
Can a community member reach out to somebody, and just kind of suggest that maybe there's a family who's needing services that they're not, they can't, a community member can do that?
Yes.
Okay, it doesn't have to be somebody in school?
No.
Okay.
And that's, I'm glad you said that, because that takes me to the next bullet point here with Care Portal, which has been one of our newer partnerships, which is designed to partner ourselves with some of our non-traditional partners in our community, such as some of our religious affiliations, our churches, and to utilize what the churches could possibly offer from their end for supports to our families, so that that's not like a forgotten piece of our community, but how can we connect that group, those affiliations with our families, so that they are kind of understanding that there is that type of support in our community right here for them, and through the school district, we can all work together to kind of put the family, put that student in the best position possible to be academically successful. And so Care Portal's done great with that. We've already had several students take advantage of the opportunities that are with that program. And so essentially how it works is it allows for anybody to submit kind of an anonymous help tip through their portal, which they capture. And what Care Portal does is that they allow each of the affiliations, their churches, their organizations that are partnered with Care Portal, they see the ticket. Okay, and let's say, for instance, we had a student that had a house fire and lost, I would say, maybe 90% of what they owned. That could possibly be submitted as a help ticket for that family. A church or an organization sees the ticket, picks it up, and says, hey, I'd like for us to help. And so through this Care Portal vehicle, we are now being partnered with that organization or church from the school district standpoint, so that we can work together on possibly helping provide resources or clothing items or house materials, anything that that family would need based on their situation. T-Chat is another one that we've carried over, where we've extended that. Each of the campuses offers it. It's ran through our libraries, just because they've got the space and the confidentiality and the space needed to kind of conduct what T-Chat is. And essentially, it is a digital platform that allows our students to receive services from a trained psychologist or psychiatrist through kind of that remote learning model. And so this is a partnership that we've been able to get with on UT RGV. And it is definitely something that is expanding throughout the state. So it's great that we were able to get a jump into T-Chat, because I can see them turning down districts moving forward who would like to partner, but they're kind of over capacity at this point because it's just been such a great resource that we as school districts have never really had before. And by the way, it's free. And so just a really great opportunity there. And then lastly, the last big thing has been experimenting with interns from the social worker kind of universe. And so through Ms. Mugi's leadership, she's got currently 2 interns throughout the district. They're primarily housed at the elementary campuses. And so that's just another opportunity like you would kind of consider student teachers, social worker, teachers, interns, just allows us another opportunity to get some help, some extra set of hands, but also a great look at kind of what's coming down the pipe. Should we maybe eventually want to expand or possibly need to replace or just have that option for staffing for next year. And so just to kind of not go into too long of what I've already kind of talked briefly about, but like I said, second target being for parent-family engagement. Parent liaisons have been outstanding in terms of really kind of expanding the depth and breadth of what we are able to do and offer for our families, especially when it comes to just kind of adult education and learning sessions where we can be more intentional with our nights rather than just calling it a parent night. It is now specifically about literacy or specifically about FAFSA and just really having those super intentional specific events so that we're reaching and being targeted to our families. The other one here that I would like to briefly mention is the Parent Cafe initiative. This is done as a partnership through a third party that TA has sponsored. And so this is something that TA is wanting to pilot as another way of increasing just parent and family engagement throughout the state. But it's essentially kind of, if you think about a cafe, right? What are we doing at a cafe? It's kind of meet, greet, kind of network, chat. That's essentially what this is. And it is currently being kind of piloted as a digital platform where it's kind of a digital coffee, kind of meet and chat, and we kind of get a sense of what's going on and we can kind of move that kind of need or concern along. And so that is something we're currently working through. And so hopefully by the end of this year, or possibly even at the next report, I'll have a really good update to share. And then finally, for second semester, which is what the SHAC, kind of their project will be for the spring semester, will be to work on conducting a parent engagement survey. Because this semester we gave, or last semester, spring of 23, we gave the student engagement survey. So we'll follow up for this year with the parent one. This is a slide which is essentially an example of the parent meetings, the campus events for the primary campus. And so all campuses have a similar calendar, and that is what each of the parent liaisons are following, and that is what they are communicating out on their respective Parent Square platforms.
Dr. White, who takes more advantage of this program? Like primary students, middle school students, or is it a combination of all campus?
When you say program, do you mean?
No, this service rather.
Oh, they all do.
They all do, okay.
All of our students have tons of needs, and so it's really just what is the need? How specific can you be? And then we can be even more specific with the service that we can provide. And so moving on to target 3, this is really where we started last school year as a SHAC. A major need that came from last year was a need to update and have more hands-on kind of guidance through our policies and procedures for things like suicide risk intervention and prevention, assessment of those types of needs, as well as anti-bullying and anti-harassment. And so we now have 2 fully fleshed out handbooks that are completely updated. And one major update we did make on the anti-bullying and anti-harassment handbook was to make sure that everything that TA has now updated with their updates this year match what we have currently updated ourselves with. And so currently we do, which is great to say that we are fully updated and in 100% compliance for those new updates from TA. The other part that we're working on still is the newer updates from TA this year, or from policy, which are the vaping, fentanyl, and opioid overdoses, and just what are we going to do as a district to provide the kind of literature and kind of curriculum and instruction on what those are, and what we kind of want to see done as a district to try to prevent, if anything, eliminate completely any sort of drug issue that we might have on any of our campuses. And so that is something that, again, as we move through the options that are currently available, SHAC is reviewing, and eventually we'll make a recommendation to the board for y'all's approval on that. And then finally, just doing some cross-department work through SHAC and the counselors as far as what type of student lessons are required, and not just which ones are required, but what does that look like? What are we wanting to do? And how is that looking at each of the campuses on those grade levels? And so kind of tying everything back to strategic planning, that's another opportunity through the required student lessons where we get to kind of triangulate, once again, strategic planning back to that committee through why that committee meets to start, right? Student health. How does that kind of get its attention when we kind of put it on the table with strategic planning as well as everything else that we've talked about today? And so that's been a really good kind of, I don't want to say workshop session, but just to get people thinking in that type of mindset as far as how can some of the topics that are a bit kind of, on the back burner often, how do we bring those to the forefront and connect those to all the things that kind of usually get top priority, right? Of course, academics, end all be all, but it's really hard to have an academic conversation if the student's mental and social well-being is not where it needs to be. And so to kind of flip it and think about it from that perspective has been really beneficial. And it just allowed our new department, like I said, that student support services for our parents and families, to really kind of gain traction in the district and to really have that effect felt immediately. Because like I said, this is the first year that we've really been able to put that in place. And finally, this was just a quick review on that student engagement survey we gave last semester, or last school year that is. And so we had roughly 1,300 something students take the survey, which was a great participation rate. Those results have been kind of captured here and have already been used by the SHAC committee this semester to complete the wellness policy triannual review. I got an opportunity to work with food service on that review, and I just want to say I really appreciate Ms. Martin and Mr. Hernandez for being a part of that, making that seamless and a really smooth review process for us this year. And so to kind of give just a quick take on the data here. I know it's super tiny, but just to get it all on one screen, this was the data that as a SHAC committee we reviewed and looked at, and we'll kind of use as a springboard into how we will look at creating the parent engagement survey for the spring semester. And so, let's see. And lastly, for anybody that would like to kind of follow along or just kind of stay updated on what the SHAC committee is up to, I do have the meeting deck here. It's a link that's open to anybody who would like to have access to it. And so if you were to click on it, you would kind of see what the document looks like. And anybody who's ever been to a committee meeting that I've had, I tend to use these documents because it's a rolling document. I can add to it. And anything I've done, you can go back as far as a couple of years ago to see just kind of what this committee has been up to or just what's been going on. So if and when we do have a new member, let's say for instance for school year 24-25, they like to kind of catch up on what we've been up to, they could just go to one place, start from the bottom and just work their way up, and it would be like they would never have missed anything. And so just trying to work with everybody on just having that documentation in place, having the structure, having that system to where when we do meet, we're meeting with purpose, with intent, and really trying to take as much advantage of the 4 meetings that we do have with that group as we can. And so with that, that's the report. Are there any questions or anything else?
I'd like to say I like to see how the SHAC committee has expanded used for that throughout the district, which is actually for the students and everyone like that. It's a good one. It's good to see that they're making sure they meet the 4 meetings that are required per year, which is another outstanding thing. But I think it's a great thing, made some good progress, and some of the advantages and new concepts are very refreshing to see, considering today's environment and everything.
Any other questions, comments? All right.
That was report on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
All right, and the next item is discuss and consider approval of student athlete passes.
Coach O'Neill, you want to talk a little bit about the student athletic pass? And the advantage?
What? I'm for them. One of the things, if participating in a program, we want people to attend other events. If you're talking about what we've always done in the past, if you're in the football program, you use your ID, put a little identifier on there, you can go to any football game because you're in the football program at no cost. So anything like that that gets us more students, supporting more students, I'm for.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, you know, a school activity is a positive event. And we have kids that are student athletes that may want to do something on a Tuesday night or a Monday soccer game, basketball, and maybe don't have the money to go and support their peers. And so this was a recommendation by board members that I think is a really a nice way to get more kids involved in a positive school function. And the fiscal impact will be very minimal.
Plus the fact that it gives them, you know, for instance, they're just football, and you want to go to something else.
Yeah.
On a different night, right? It gives them a good alternative to what they could be doing.
Absolutely.
Which is a very good concept. Plus, it gets them to be with their peers and to support their peers so that their peers will see it and they'll come and support them, and pretty soon it grows. It keeps the team and family together more. And I think it's a great opportunity.
So with your approval, we're going to reproduce these passes and give them to our student athletes and hope they use them.
I think they will.
I do too.
Yep.
Good opportunity for them.
Yep. All right. Any questions, suggestions?
Will it have like a picture of them, so, I mean,
it can.
What I did on their ID cards as opposed to the gold cards is I'll get their student IDs. So this way it identifies who they are. I'll get those, right. So I'll get their ID numbers from our data specialist, and we'll have them already ready so they can issue it and it'll match their actual student ID number. Because nobody else would know that other than them.
Yeah. That way they won't give to their.
Okay.
Great idea. Can more be added to it, like all students instead of just student athletes?
We can do, it had to be another agenda item, but at your pleasure, we can do whatever.
I mean, so we can have, because I'm sure there's student athletes that might not have the money to go to things, but I'm sure there's other students that might not have the money to go to certain events. Why don't we just give all students the same opportunity to do it?
District-wide or just?
District-wide.
District-wide?
District-wide.
So my suggestion would be if you're doing, so the students that are in sports tend to go watch sports that they play and cheer for the teams. I like the idea, but I would suggest that if you're not in the sports group, those would be on a request basis. If you're interested in getting one, request one, as opposed to just blanket. That's a lot of work for people that aren't involved in the athletics and the program. So I don't have a problem with it though.
You don't leave nobody out, but at the same time is that if they're not gonna go, they just don't have to go. But if they want to go, they have the card to go.
Correct. Yes.
I mean, so.
But I'm just looking at probability. Your athletic participants are more likely to go to another athletic event than somebody that's not in athletics. Not saying we should exclude them, but if they want to go, instead of a blanket, all, however many students we have get a pass, they're available to you. If you're not in the athletic group, come to the office, get with Mr. Alvarado, get with Coach O'Neill, and you can get one. We're not going to deny anybody one. But for time and effort.
However it works.
Yeah, but I like the idea. I think it's great. I think our student section at football games is awesome. You know, and it's got a little tradition going on. You know, it came out in the news a couple years ago. I think if we can keep that going, when you go to other schools, you don't see student sections like ours. And I think that's a huge advantage sometimes.
Plus the fact, the variation of what you're referring to is they could use student ID, but the athletes would get these, the ones that are more likely.
Yeah. It's a good idea, Ben. We can start with this and then progress it to that, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so do we have a motion?
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the student athletic passes as presented.
I'm trying not to fumble.
No,
too much.
you've done great tonight.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Ben Benavides makes the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Gonzalez seconds. All those in favor? All right, motion carries 6-0.
Do you have the continuing hours? 'Cause I don't know.
He has it.
Oh, I have. Got you.
All righty, the next item is a report item. It's the announcement of continuing education of TMISD board members. All right, so I'm gonna go through this and read through the different required trainings. TMISD continuing education of board members reporting date 11/16/2023. Local district orientation. The following first-year board members have completed the local district orientation training: Denise Villalobos, Leo Gonzalez, and Paul Arriaga. Orientation to the Texas Education Code. The following first-year board members have completed the orientation to the Texas Education Code training: Denise Villalobos and Paul Arriaga. The following first-year board members are deficient in meeting the required orientation to the Texas Education Code training: Leo Gonzalez. Post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code. The following board members have completed post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code training: Paul Mostella, Kimberly Boone, Leo Gonzalez, Ben Benavides. The following board members have scheduled training to complete the post-legislative update to the Texas Education Code: Janie Anguiano. Team building. The following board members have completed the annual team building training: Janie Anguiano, Paul Arriaga, Ben Benavides, Kim Boone, Leo Gonzalez, Paul Mostella, Denise Villalobos. Additional continuing education. The following board members have completed the additional continuing education requirements: Paul Mostella, Kim Boone, Janie Anguiano, Leo Gonzalez, Ben Benavides, Denise Villalobos, Paul Arriaga. Evaluating student academic performance and setting goals. The following board members have completed the biennial training on evaluating student academic performance and setting goals: Paul Mostella, Kim Boone, Janie Anguiano, Ben Benavides, Denise Villalobos. The following board members are deficient in meeting the required biennial training on evaluating student academic performance and setting goals: Paul Arriaga, Leo Gonzalez. Identifying and reporting abuse, trafficking, and other maltreatment of children. The following board members have completed the biennial training on identifying and reporting abuse and trafficking: Ben Benavides, Denise Villalobos, Janie Anguiano, Kim Boone, Paul Arriaga, Paul Mostella, Leo Gonzalez. School safety. The following board members have completed the biennial training on school safety: Ben Benavides, Denise Villalobos, Janie Anguiano, Kimberly Boone, Paul Arriaga, Paul Mostella. The following board members have scheduled training to timely complete the biennial training on school safety: Leo Gonzalez. Exceeding required continuing education. Board member Kimberly Boone exceeded the required amount of continuing education by 16.75 additional hours. Board Member Janie Anguiano exceeded the required amount of continuing education by 14.25 additional hours. Board Member Leo Gonzalez exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 20.25 additional hours. Board Member Ben Benavides exceeded the required amount of continuing education by 11.5 additional hours. Board Member Paul Mostella exceeded the required amount of required education training by 37.75 additional hours. Board Member Denise Villalobos exceeded the required amount of continuing education training by 21 additional hours. Any questions or borrow some hours? I said, can I borrow some hours? All right, that's report only, right?
Report only.
All right, the next item is discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. Did I read through those there?
Historically, Kim has, usually you don't.
You normally
I
don't.
like that approach.
Make a motion.
All right, do we,
Second motion.
any questions or suggestions on that, the item?
Can you explain the auction process or how that works?
As superintendent, if I determine that an item is non-value, has no value, then it can go to auction. Historically, how has TM?
We typically use an online auction, Lemons Auctioneers. It gets posted in a newspaper. The auction runs for 14 days, so everybody has an opportunity to bid on it. And then it goes through a sale. We've been very successful. Lemons has a large group, so we have buyers from California, Mexico. So stuff that, even though by the time we sell stuff, it's very depleted. But even those old buses, we'll get at least 1,000, if not more for.
That's a much better system than what I'm used to, where you have the lots and it's an all-day thing and you just wear people out.
We used to do that.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
All right, any other? Go ahead.
Can we add attendance to the enrollment section?
I'm gonna put that in the
Connections. Okay.
Yes. That way you get it weekly instead of once a month.
Cool. Anything else, Denise?
Nope.
Anybody else? All right.
It is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, Mr. Mostello made the motion. Leo Gonzalez seconds the motion. All those in favor? That carries 6-0. All right, closed session. The board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, 071 through 076, .076, .082, .0821, .083, .084. It is 8:27. How much time I need for a break? All right. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
My teachers will be happy.
Ask if there's any further business.
Any further business?
No, sir.
All right, our future meetings, we have a meeting December 18th, regular 2023, regular called board meeting. At this time, we will move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
it. Paul Mostella seconds. It's 9:11. Thank you, everyone.
Did you already give me?
Hey, let's hold on.
Meeting is adjourned.
Did y'all give me these?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I gave you mine.